The silence had grown heavy. Orion Hale sat at the edge of a failing life support console inside Lunar Relay Station E-7, orbiting a forgotten moon in a sector even smugglers avoided. The artificial lights flickered above his head like dying stars. His breath fogged in the chilled air, and his fingers, despite being wrapped in insulated gloves, moved slower every day. 49 days. 49 days since the comms satellite shorted out. Since the emergency beacon failed. Since his shuttle crashed on landing and splintered into scrap metal across the surface of the moon like a child's broken toy. 49 days of no voices but his own. He kept talking anyway, mostly to the station's aging AI core, which responded in slow, decaying pulses of synthetic thought. Sometimes, he sang to himself. Sometimes, he screamed into the comms system just to hear sound bounce back at him. Even echoes, distorted and garbled by weak systems, were better than nothing. Orion hadn't always been alone. 6 months ago, he was the chief xenolinguist aboard the Ignis Vale, a diplomatic vessel sent to re-establish contact with fringe colonies after a communications blackout. It was supposed to be easy: land, make contact, offer aid, document any surviving languages or evolving dialects. He wasn't a soldier or a hero. Just a quiet man who understood how powerful words could be. Then the sabotage happened. Something, or someone, took out the ship's navigation during a supply drop. His escape pod launched on instinct. No navigation. No backup. No signal to call for help. Only this station, long decommissioned, old as myths. Orion had no reason to believe anyone knew where he was. But something had changed. He was repairing the exterior solar array when he first heard it. Not with his ears, but through the faint hum that traveled through the ice-cold metal of the suit. A pattern. Subtle. Rhythmic. Like Morse code, if Morse code had a heartbeat. He rushed inside, helmet hissing as it released pressure, and staggered to the central console. Static greeted him. The usual kind. Empty, lifeless. But under the static, something pulsed. 3 soft tones. Pause. 2 quick chirps. Pause. Repeat. Over and over. He ran a diagnostic. No known translation matrix recognized the signal. It didn't match council frequencies, pirate encryptions, nor any human dialect known across the 5 sectors. And yet, it was speaking. Not gibberish. Not randomness. Something intentional. He didn't sleep that night. He listened. Recorded. Mapped it on paper when the station's old software couldn't keep up. The pulses followed a structure. Linguistic, mathematical, emotional. Like music. Like thought. And at 4:17 station time, the signal shifted. Coordinates. Orion's breath caught in his throat as he input them into the navigational grid. The console hesitated, calculating, then lit up. Incoming object. Arrival time, 1 hour, 57 minutes. Velocity, subliminal. Size, unknown. Shape, unclassified. He stared at the screen, unable to move. The signal was not a coincidence. It was a message. A visitor. An hour and a half later, the airlock vibrated faintly. Not violently, just a subtle shudder that passed through the floor like a ripple in a calm lake. Orion stood at the main observation port and watched as the vessel approached. It was like nothing he'd ever seen. No defined edges. No hard metal. It looked like starlight captured in motion, shaped into a form that was neither solid nor fluid. Flowing strands of light trailed behind it like ribbons in zero gravity. The hull shimmered, not with propulsion, but as though the ship bent space itself to move. The landing was silent. Orion stood frozen. His heart pounded, not with fear, but a strange, aching anticipation. The station door hissed open. A rush of sterile air swept into the chamber. Lights flickered. Gravity shifted for a brief moment, as though adjusting to the presence of something not meant for this place. 5 figures emerged. Tall. Impossibly elegant. Their bodies moved like dancers, robes flowing around them that shimmered with the colors of distant galaxies. Skin pale with a hint of translucence. Faces angular but not cold. They said nothing. One stepped forward. Not taller, but somehow, brighter. Her hood fell away, and Orion's breath left him in a single, stunned gasp. Hair the color of midnight wrapped in sunlight. Skin that seemed to glow from within, like moonlight reflected off water. Eyes the color of starlight, pale gold with streaks of indigo. And she smiled. Not politely. Not formally. Gently. Like a secret remembered after centuries. Orion hail, she said, in a voice as soft as dawn. You heard me. He staggered back a step. You speak English? I speak your soul, she replied. He blinked. Confusion warred with awe in his chest. How do you know my name? Because I've known your presence since the stars first whispered of it. She stepped closer, robes gliding across the floor like fog. I am Aurinia Valari, emissary of the Iliari people. And I have crossed the divide to find you. He shook his head slowly. This must be a dream. Dreams do not answer your thoughts, she replied, nor send signals no machine could create. He tried to speak again, but emotion caught in his throat. The isolation, the hopelessness, the fear, all crashing into something impossible. Something beautiful. Aurinia reached out her hand. He hesitated. Then he took it. The moment their skin touched, the station vanished. Not physically, but in his mind. Images filled his vision. Not his memories, hers. A world of crystal canopies and living oceans. Songs that echoed from the mountains. A child's laughter. An elder's farewell. A great loss, a storm of ash. Then, a human face. Ancient. Worn. Kind. A hand extended in peace. Aurinia gasped softly, as though feeling his recognition. He was the first, she whispered. Your ancestor. The one who showed us what love meant beyond stars. We call him the thread-bearer. Orion pulled away slightly, shaking. I'm just a linguist. I'm not. You are his echo, she said. Your blood remembers. Your spirit hears. And your heart still reaches out in the dark. His knees nearly gave way. I've been alone so long, he whispered. No longer, Aurinia said, guiding him to sit. Not ever again. They sat in the central atrium, the hum of the relay station finally quiet. The other Iliari stood guard silently. Some watched him with cautious eyes, but none moved to intervene. Aurinia offered him a thin disk from her satchel. It pulsed with soft light. Your kind builds machines. We build memories, she explained. This contains the story of our bond. Watch, and you will understand. Orion placed it into the station's holoconsole. The projection filled the room. Scenes of ancient unity. Human scientists and Iliari builders exchanging knowledge. Dancing under binary suns. A new shared language. Then, a rupture. War. Betrayal by another faction. A severing of the bond. Aurinia turned to him, eyes moist with emotion. We've wandered ever since. We called across the void, hoping someone might still remember. And now, you do. He looked at her. Not with confusion this time, but with a gentle kind of wonder. Why me? Aurinia smiled. Because love chooses the quiet ones. The lost ones. The ones who listen when no one else does. Her fingers brushed his. Not commanding. Not desperate. Just, present. He didn't pull away. And in that small touch, something ancient stirred in him. Something fragile. Something true. For the first time in 49 days, Orion Hale didn't feel like a broken machine left behind. He felt like the beginning of something. Aurinia Valari had studied human history since she was a child. Not in textbooks or political files like the elders preferred, but in songs and fragments of forgotten memory. Encoded tapes recovered from derelict satellites. Lullabies translated from the tongues of old Alliance refugees. Handwritten letters that survived centuries of war and vacuum, brittle but persistent, like the species they came from. She learned of humans the way others might learn of myth. Not just as a species, but as a possibility. But none of that prepared her for what it felt like to touch one. When her fingers met Orion Hale's, something changed in her. The stories didn't lie. The thread was real. It hummed through him like a buried current, ancient and alive. She felt it the moment their hands met, a vibration beneath her skin, like a song long silenced returning to its first note. And he'd looked at her with such confusion. Such depth. Such loneliness. Aurinia had seen that loneliness before. In herself. She stood at the far end of the relay station's empty atrium, gazing out the viewport into the star-swept dark. The moon below glimmered in ghost light, untouched and silent. Behind her, the other Iliari waited. Silent. Alert. Untrusting. And Orion, he was still sitting where she had left him, eyes fixed on the last memory the disk had shown him, 2 children, 1 human, 1 Iliari, laughing as they chased each other through a field of light grass. You never knew, she said softly, her voice echoing in the quiet. None of us did. Orion's voice was distant. Broken. I thought we were alone out here. I thought I was just, forgotten. Aurinia turned to him. No soul who carries the thread is ever forgotten, she said. This thread you keep talking about, he muttered, you keep saying I carry it, like it means something. But I don't know what it is. It is memory, she said gently. And connection. The bond your people once made with mine, a bond beyond biology, beyond words. A bridge of soul to soul. But it is more than inheritance. It is choice. Orion looked up. So, what happens now? You take me back. Study me like a relic? She flinched, and he saw it. I am not here to dissect your mind, Orion Hale, she said. I am here to ask something of you. She moved to him. Slowly. Respectfully. If you allow it, she said, we may begin the ritual of resonance. Resonance? You felt the thread, she said. But it is dormant. Buried beneath the scars of time. The ritual awakens it. Not fully, not yet, but enough to understand. Enough to share. Orion stood, uncertain. Is it dangerous? Not if we trust each other. Aurinia stepped back and gestured. The Iliari guards parted, allowing her access to a small chamber beyond the main hall. It had once been a meditation room for humans, filled now with dim, flickering light and dust. Sit across from me, she said, lowering herself onto the ancient cushions. Orion hesitated only a moment, then obeyed. Their knees nearly touched. She extended both hands. He took them. Their skin met again, warmer this time. A pulse. Not from outside. From within. Aurinia closed her eyes. Orion did the same. And the world fell away. The resonance was not like memory. It was memory becoming. Orion gasped. He felt it, her heartbeat, steady and strong. He saw her as a child beneath violet trees. Her mother laughing. Her father dancing with his feet on firelight. He felt her fear during the unbonding years, when contact with humans was forbidden and the old stories were labeled lies. He saw the night she first found the signal. A human beacon. Shattered, but pulsing. She followed it across half the galaxy, against orders, across systems where stars were dying. And through her eyes, he saw himself, sitting alone, muttering to a cracked console, trying to decode a ghost. You were never just a name in a database, her voice said inside him. You were the promise we thought we lost. But Orion had memories too. And Aurenia saw them. His mother, reading poetry by candlelight during power outages. His brother's laughter, silenced by war. The day he first held a language chip and realized words could connect worlds. The crash. The silence. The emptiness that clawed at him like frostbite. And through it all, the ache. Not for rescue. Not for glory. For connection. For someone who would understand. Aurenia's breath caught in her throat. She felt his need like it was her own. And then something shifted. A warmth bloomed between their palms. The thread. It shimmered. For the first time in generations. When their eyes opened, they stared at each other in stunned silence. Aurenia's cheeks glowed faintly. Her voice was a whisper. You are real. Orion reached up and touched her cheek. So are you. Outside the chamber, not all were pleased. Zealand, the captain of the guard, stood rigid, his arms crossed over his chest, jaw clenched. This is reckless, he hissed to the second in command. She gives herself to a human after mere hours. She feels the thread, said the younger guard, uneasy. That hasn't happened in centuries. Then the stories are wrong, Zealand snapped. And she's letting herself believe fantasy over caution. He turned away from the chamber, seething. Aurenia might have opened the bond, but Zealand hadn't forgotten what humans had done before. And he would not allow it to happen again. Later, after the resonance ended, Aurenia and Orion stood together in the station's observatory. Neither spoke for a while. Then Orion whispered, when we touched, I saw your world. It's beautiful. And broken, she replied softly. Much like yours. What happens if we finish the bond, he asked. We become something more than either species, she said. A blend. A beacon. The bond stabilizes our power, but it also gives you a voice among my people. And that frightens them. Frightens you? She turned to face him. Not anymore. He looked at her, searching for a crack in her serenity. But she stood steady. Powerful. You really believe in this, don't you? He asked. I believe in what you made me feel, she replied. And I believe that if one human once saved my people with only a heart full of kindness, then maybe another can help heal the rift. Her hand found his. But I cannot do it alone. He looked at their fingers, laced together now, not just as a symbol, but as truth. Then I guess I'm not alone anymore either. Aurenia smiled, and this time, it reached all the way to her eyes. But in the shadows of the station, something stirred. A signal had been sent. Not by Orion. Not by the Queen. Zealand had activated a distress beacon of his own. Not to call for help. But to call for removal. And the ship that answered was not Iliari. It was human. And it was not here to make peace. Kale Dren stood in the silence of his quarters, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the slow rotation of stars beyond the viewport. He had stood by Aurenia Valari's side for decades. Through failed peace talks, through desperate searches for the thread, through the growing unrest among the Iliari Council. He had killed for her. Bled for her. Waited for her to see him. And now, he watched her fall into the hands of a human. Orion Hale. Kale's jaw tightened as the name passed through his thoughts. He didn't hate the human for existing. He hated that Orion had been chosen. He hated that she had smiled for him in a way Kale had never seen before. He hated that the thread, the sacred bond their people had sought for generations, had been awakened in a stranger, not in him. But what he hated most was the flicker of jealousy twisting into something darker. The ship had returned to orbit, leaving the abandoned relay station behind. Aurenia had insisted they bring Orion aboard, to protect him, she claimed. To study the bond. To deepen it. The council aboard the ship disagreed. Kale had heard their whispers. She is clouded. It's just a human. She risks everything on a feeling. And yet none had dared act. None but him. Kale's private calm cracked to life with a hiss. Zealand here, said the voice on the other end. The human fleet answered our ping. Cloaked. 1 hour out. Kale closed his eyes. The weight of what he was doing threatened to crush him. But he forced himself to speak. Good. Keep silent. If Aurenia asks, we detected gravitational anomalies. Nothing more. And the human? Alive. For now. Orion felt it first. The shift in the air. The way the crew's eyes avoided his. The subtle tension in the corridors. Aurenia noticed it too. She stood beside him in the central arboretum, where blue-leaf trees shimmered under artificial starlight. Her hand grazed his, but her expression was distant. They're pulling away, she murmured. Even my own guards. Orion looked at her. Is it because of me? Because of what we're becoming, she said softly. To them, this bond isn't sacred, it's dangerous. He squeezed her hand. Then we prove them wrong. But even as he said it, he saw the shadow pass behind the trees. Kale. Kale moved like a ghost through the corridors. He was once a guardian of the bond. A protector of the ancient texts. He had trained since youth to carry the thread himself, if it ever returned. Instead, it had wrapped itself around a human. His steps brought him to the ship's core, a chamber sealed from view, where the council's defensive override was kept. Only two had access, the emissary, and the High Sentinel. Kale was the latter. He placed his hand on the panel. The door hissed open. Inside, the console pulsed with waiting commands. Kale entered the code that would drop the ship's shielding at the precise moment the human fleet arrived. A trap, yes. But a clean one. Aurenia would be taken alive. Orion, not so much. His finger hovered above the final confirmation. Then, a voice. You're not sure. Kale spun, startled. Orion stood at the doorway, breath uneven, gaze steady. Kale's hand moved instinctively to his sidearm. Don't, Orion said. Please. Kale's hand hovered. You're here because you love her, Orion said quietly. Kale froze. I've seen the way you look at her, Orion continued. I felt it when we shared the bond. Not directly. But in her sadness. In the way she carries you in her thoughts. Kale's face hardened. You know nothing of what she carries. Maybe not, Orion said. But I know what it's like to be afraid that the person you love will choose someone else. Silence. Kale's voice came low and bitter. She wasn't supposed to choose at all. She was supposed to serve. Lead. Rise. And instead she saw me, Orion said. Not because I'm better. But because the bond chose. Kale's hand dropped from his weapon. I don't want to take her from you, Orion said. I want to stand with her. Help her. Protect her. Kale turned away. For a moment, just a moment, he trembled. You're right, he whispered. I do love her. Orion took a step forward. Then help her. Because right now, your signal brought an armed fleet that thinks she's betrayed them. And they won't stop to ask questions. Kale stared at the console. Then, slowly, he deactivated the override. The lights dimmed. Aurenia's voice came over the comm, all hands to the command deck. Incoming ships on Vector 27. Human signatures. Kale turned back to Orion. Go to her, he said. I'll handle the others. Orion nodded once, and ran. Aurenia stood before the main view screen, her face pale. 12 human vessels. No insignia. No diplomatic codes. These weren't peacekeepers. They were hunters. And they were already charging weapons. We have to cloak, said her pilot. No, she said. They'll follow. And fire blind. Then what? We open comms, she said. Full transmission. Include the bond. Her attendants gasped. Even her guards flinched. That's a sacred connection, one whispered. It's not meant to be shared. It's the only thing they'll believe, she said. And then Orion arrived, breathless. They're already inside system range, he said. If they see weapons, they'll strike first. Aurenia took his hand. Then we speak as one. They stepped onto the signal platform. A device older than the ship itself, designed for moments exactly like this. A merging of thought and voice. She looked at him. Ready? Always. They activated the bond. A pulse of light surrounded them, then flowed outward into the ship's comm grid. Their voices, merged, layered, one heart speaking through two souls, reached the human ships. To the approaching fleet, we are not your enemy. We are not your target. We are the legacy you left behind. Aurenia's memories flowed with the message, the old human who gave his life for her people. The peace that once was. The loss. Orion's thoughts followed, the loneliness of his exile. The truth he found in the Iliari. The love he found in her. The crews aboard the human ships faltered. Screens flickered with images they didn't understand, but felt. A captain hesitated. A gunner cried. And slowly, like blades sheathed, the targeting locks disengaged. One by one, the ships turned. Retreated. The message had reached them. On the command deck, Aurenia collapsed into Orion's arms. Exhausted. But alive. Kale entered quietly. Their eyes met. And Aurenia, still half-bonded, felt what was in his heart. Not hatred. Just sorrow. She moved to him. You were always loyal, she said. Not loyal enough, he whispered. You gave me time, she said. And for that, thank you. Kale looked at Orion. Then back at her. He is not what I wanted for you, he said. But he may be what we need. Aurenia nodded. And Kale, for the first time in years, bowed. In the quiet that followed, Orion and Aurenia stood together beneath the simulated sky of the ship's arboretum. You could have died, she whispered. So could you, he replied. She leaned her head against his shoulder. The bond is changing us. Maybe it's meant to, he said. Maybe that's what connection is. Not being whole on your own, but becoming something new, together. Aurenia reached up, tracing the outline of his cheek. Then let's keep becoming. And beneath the glow of distant stars, they kissed, softly, bravely, fully aware that the next challenge waited just beyond the horizon. Saran Leora never thought her name would mean anything. To most aboard the Elaratel, she was just a systems analyst, quiet, efficient, barely noticed among the hum of engines and starlight. She liked it that way. She preferred the background. Being unseen meant being safe. Because Saran wasn't like the others. Not entirely Iliari. Not entirely human. She was the in-between. The secret. And now, her secret was burning. She'd felt it the moment the bond activated. Not the usual energy pulses that hummed through the ship when the Queen linked with the human. This was different. This was personal. As the bond wave washed over the vessel, something inside Saran responded. A flare beneath her skin. A flicker behind her eyes. A language not spoken aloud, but written in the marrow of her bones. She stumbled in the corridor, grabbing the wall for balance. No one noticed, just another technician with a faulty balance mod. But her world was shifting. And she had no idea how long she had before someone else saw it too. In her quarters, she locked the door and collapsed onto the floor. Her reflection stared back from the metal panel beside her bunk, same soft brown skin, same mismatched eyes, one storm gray, one star gold. She'd always blamed the anomaly on a genetic mutation. But now she knew better. She remembered her mother's last words, spoken with trembling lips and a tear-streaked face. You must never let them see. She never explained who they were. Just gave Saran a name she'd never been allowed to use and a necklace with a broken crystal pendant. Saran pulled the pendant out now. It pulsed. For the first time in years. And then the voice came. Not outside. Not in the room. Inside her mind. You are not forgotten. She gasped, clutching her chest. The bond. Not the one between Orion and the Queen. Hers. A buried echo. But now, rising. Across the ship, chaos brewed. Some Eliari elders demanded that Orion be detained, that the human presence had destabilized their systems, their traditions, their very souls. Orinia resisted. Fiercely. Openly. But the opposition was gaining strength. Several council members had left the capital chamber in protest. Kale, though loyal, could not silence them all. Saran watched from the shadows. And made her decision. The secret archive sat below the resonance chamber, a vault long sealed, guarded by memory locks and genetic codes only a few could pass. Saran passed them all. The doors opened with a gentle sigh. Inside were relics, holograms, handwritten scrolls, preserved fragments of the original human Eliari bond records. She knelt before one pedestal. It flickered to life. A man's face appeared, wrinkled, kind, eyes that burned with fire. Your name is Saran, the recording said. And you are my legacy. Her throat closed. She recognized the voice. She'd heard it in dreams. This was him, the human who once saved the Eliari people. The first threadbearer. Her great-grandfather. The recording continued. If you are seeing this, the bond has returned. But you must act. You are the bridge. They will not understand. They will fear you. But do not run. Do not hide. Show them what we began. She wept. And when the message ended, she stood taller. The trial was no longer about Orion and Orinia alone. It was about her too. Orinia sat in the Starlight Council chamber, her eyes red-rimmed, her voice hoarse. You ask me to break the bond, she said, to sever what the stars themselves have restored. I will not. Elder Mixon slammed his hand against the table. You risk our extinction. The human fleets are watching us now, waiting for a reason to strike. They listened, Orinia said. Orion made them listen. Orion is not Eliari, another counselor shouted. And neither are you, anymore. Gasps echoed. Kale stepped forward, hand on his weapon. Orinia stood, trembling, but defiant. Then perhaps it is time to evolve. The doors opened behind her. All eyes turned. Saran stepped forward. Small. Unnoticed. Until now. I carry both of you, she said. Her voice calm, but unshakable. The council fell silent. Orinia's eyes widened. Kale whispered, who is she? Saran Leora, she said. Daughter of an Eliari exile and a hidden human line. Descendant of the first bond. No one moved. I can prove it, she added. She stepped into the center of the chamber and unclasped the pendant. It pulsed again. Then shattered in a burst of light. A symbol appeared above her head, 2 stars entwined. The mark of unity. The ancient crest. Aurenia dropped to her knees in reverence. The council began to murmur. You fear Orion because he is human, Saran said. But I am both. And I have been afraid too. All my life. Afraid of you. She turned to the queen. But no more. Aurenia stood slowly. You knew nothing of this? Saran nodded. Not until now. Not fully. Aurenia reached out and touched her cheek. You are the proof we never dared hope for. Elder Mixon rose, his voice shaking. If this is true, then everything we've believed must change. Yes, Saran said. It must. And for once, no one argued. That night, Saran wandered the star garden. Orion found her there, leaning against a glowing tree. You sure know how to make an entrance, he said gently. She laughed, a sound halfway between relief and disbelief. I thought I'd be thrown into space. Instead, you saved us. Maybe, she said. Or maybe I just lit the fire that's been waiting to burn. He sat beside her. I know how lonely it is, carrying something no one understands, he said. And now? He smiled. Now we carry it together. She looked at him. You really love her, don't you? Yeah, he said softly. I do. Saran nodded. Then keep her safe. Because what's coming next, it won't be peaceful. They sat in silence a while, 2 flames from different worlds. Waiting for the dawn. Far across the galaxy, a signal reached an ancient station orbiting a dead world. A message, encrypted with a forgotten key. A single word pulsed in dark code. Symbiosis. And something woke up. Something that had waited centuries for the thread to return. But it did not wish for peace. It wished to claim the bond for itself. And it was already on its way.